The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. Its steady rhythm against the mansion's tall glass windows sounded like an echo of someone crying far away. Inside, Ethan Cole, one of the city's youngest millionaires, stood alone in his office, staring at 3 small faces on a charity flyer. The children looked barely 6. Triplets, thin, frightened, eyes too old for their age. Something inside him cracked open. His world was made of meetings and deals, yet those eyes followed him through every room, even in sleep. And on the 3rd sleepless night, Ethan made a decision that would rewrite his life forever. His wife, Lily, wasn't home when he called the orphanage. He didn't tell her, not yet. She had been through too much lately. The failed pregnancy, the quiet dinners, the silence that filled their mansion like fog. He only wanted to heal her heart. Maybe these children could feel the emptiness echoing between them. When Lily finally came home that evening, drenched and exhausted from work, Ethan met her at the door. "I did something today," he said, voice trembling with a strange hope. "I think it might save us." Her eyes narrowed. "Ethan, what did you do?" He smiled faintly, almost pleading. "I found 3 children who need a home. Triplets. They lost everything. And I thought, maybe—" She froze, the color draining from her face. "Before we dive deeper, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? It amazes me how far a single story can travel. Drop your city. Let's see how wide kindness still spreads." Lily's hands trembled. She turned away from him, clutching her chest as if something sharp had pierced it. "You adopted them without telling me." "I couldn't wait," Ethan whispered. "They'll be here tomorrow." Her silence was louder than the rain. When morning came, the children arrived in a small van, a boy and 2 girls, huddled together, clutching worn teddy bears. The social worker smiled nervously. "They've been through a lot," she said softly. "Their parents, it wasn't peaceful." Ethan bent down, his voice gentle. "Welcome home." The smallest girl, Ava, looked up with big, uncertain eyes. "Is this really our home?" "Yes," he said, forcing a smile that ached in his cheeks. "Forever." Behind him, Lily stood motionless on the steps. She looked at the children like they were ghosts from a story she didn't want to hear. The triplets clung to each other, whispering. They had never seen a house so big, so quiet. When Lily finally spoke, her voice was soft but brittle. "I'll show them their rooms." That night, Ethan felt relief. For the first time in months, laughter filled the halls, soft giggles, small feet running. But Lily barely ate dinner. She watched them with eyes that didn't blink often enough, her smile practiced. When the lights went out, she sat by the window, knees to her chest, whispering. They look like him. The next morning, strange things began. One of the children's drawings appeared on Ethan's desk, a tall man in a suit, standing beside a woman crying blood. He thought it was imagination. But when he asked who the man was, all 3 children answered in unison. Daddy said he'd come back. Ethan laughed it off at first. Children talk strangely sometimes. But that night, he heard whispers near the stairs. Lily was awake, too, staring into the dark hallway. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. A soft giggle came from the shadows. Then a voice, faint, childish, but cold. "Mommy doesn't want us here." Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked at Lily, but her face was pale, frozen. Something in this house had changed. He didn't know it yet, but the kindness he thought would heal them had just opened the door to something far darker. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the faint line of moonlight slipping through the curtains. The house was too still, too alive in its silence. Every creak felt like a footstep, every whisper of wind like someone breathing close behind him. By dawn, Lily was already up, pacing the hallway outside the children's rooms. She looked hollow-eyed, her voice flat. "They were talking in their sleep," she murmured. All 3, the same words, over and over. "What did they say?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, her fingers trembling against the banister. "They said, he's watching from the walls." He tried to laugh it off again, but his throat went dry. "Kids have nightmares, Lil. They've been through trauma." Trauma doesn't make you say the same thing in perfect sync. She snapped, eyes flashing with fear. Downstairs, the triplets sat together at the breakfast table, eerily quiet. They didn't fight or fidget. They just watched Lily with wide, knowing eyes. When she set their plates down, the smallest boy whispered, "Mommy doesn't like us." Lily froze mid-motion. "What did you just say?" The boy tilted his head. "That's what Daddy told us." "Your Daddy," she whispered, her voice barely holding. "He said you tried to send us back." Ethan's heart twisted. Hey, no one's sending anyone back. You're safe here, okay?" He forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow, even to himself. That night, Ethan found Lily sitting in the nursery. She was staring at a drawing taped to the wall. 3 small figures standing beside a woman with long hair. The woman's face was scratched out. "They drew me like that," she said softly. "Scratched out, every single one of them." He crouched beside her, trying to steady his voice. "Lily, you're letting fear win. They are just children." Her eyes lifted to his, wet, glassy, and full of something close to despair. "Ethan, they're not just children. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest. Comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters." Days passed, and the mansion felt less like a home and more like a maze of eyes. The staff began quitting, one by one, muttering about strange noises, lights flickering, doors that locked themselves. One afternoon, Ethan's assistant, Grace, stopped by with some business documents. The moment she stepped into the living room, she froze. "So, do you know there's someone upstairs?" Ethan frowned. "No one's here except..." A loud thud cut through the silence, followed by a child's laughter. Grace paled. That didn't sound normal. When they ran upstairs, they found the triplets' door wide open. The children were sitting in a perfect circle, holding hands, eyes closed. On the floor, drawn in chalk, was a crude symbol Ethan had never seen before. Lily appeared behind them, her face drained of color. "They've been drawing that symbol everywhere," she whispered. "Walls, mirrors, even the windows." Ethan knelt, brushing the chalk lines with shaking fingers. "Where did you learn this?" he asked the kids. Ava opened her eyes slowly, almost dreamlike. "Daddy taught us. He said it keeps the bad woman away." Lily stepped back, trembling. "What bad woman?" The children turned their heads toward her, together, and smiled. "You." The word hung in the air like a curse. That night, Lily locked herself in their bedroom, refusing to eat. Ethan tried to comfort her through the door, but she wouldn't answer. He sat outside, listening to her muffled sobs until they faded into silence. When he finally walked downstairs, something on the wall caught his eye. A new drawing, fresh and dark. It showed Lily sleeping in their bed, 3 small shadows standing over her. He felt his stomach twist. For the first time since he'd adopted them, Ethan wasn't sure if he had saved those children or brought something into his home that was beyond saving. The next morning arrived gray and heavy. A storm gathered over the city, pressing low clouds against the horizon. Ethan barely noticed the sound of thunder anymore. It felt like the mansion itself had learned to mimic the weather, unpredictable and loud inside, silent and suffocating outside. Lily hadn't come out of the bedroom all night. When Ethan finally opened the door, she was sitting on the floor, staring at a reflection in the mirror. "They whisper when I sleep," she said quietly. "They come close to my ear and say, 'He's still here.'" He tried to touch her shoulder, but she flinched like his hand was fire. "Ethan, you brought something into this house. It's not just children. It's him." "Lily, stop. There's no him. They lost their parents, remember?" She turned toward him slowly, eyes hollow. "That's the problem. They didn't lose him. They brought him." Her words followed him through the day. He couldn't focus. He wandered into his office to find the triplets sitting on the floor again, drawing with black crayons. This time it wasn't symbols. It was faces. Dozens of them. Each one looked like his wife. Each one had eyes crossed out in red. He took a step back. "Ava," he said gently, "why are you drawing these?" She looked up with a soft smile. "So Daddy knows who to find." Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Right, yes, and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. That night, Ethan couldn't breathe. The weight of guilt, fear, and confusion sat on his chest like stone. He needed answers, real ones. He called the orphanage where the triplets came from. But when the line connected, the woman on the other end sounded startled. The triplets? You mean the Morgan children? Yes, that's them. Her voice dropped to a whisper. So, those children were supposed to be under psychological evaluation. They weren't cleared for adoption yet. Ethan's blood ran cold. Why? What's wrong with them? I'm not authorized to share details, but she hesitated. Their father was involved in rituals. He believed the children could speak to spirits. They were found in a basement, surrounded by... The call cut out. The line went dead. Ethan stared at the silent phone, heart hammering. Basement. He ran through the halls, the storm raging outside. The triplets were asleep, or pretending to be. The house felt wrong, humming with something unseen. He grabbed a flashlight and descended the old cellar stairs. Dust and cold met him halfway down. The beam of light caught something carved into the wall, a series of symbols, identical to the ones the children had drawn upstairs. At the center, someone had scratched words in uneven letters. She took them. He wants them back. Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard. He turned, and for a moment, he swore he saw movement in the dark, a tall figure, half shadow, half human, watching him from the far corner. Who's there? He shouted, voice cracking. Silence. Then the faint sound of giggling. He spun around and pointed the flashlight upward. Standing at the top of the stairs were the triplets, holding hands, faces blank. Daddy says stop looking. The boy whispered, You'll make her angry. Who? Ethan croaked. Ava's lips curved into a small smile. Mommy. Lily's scream tore through the house before he could move. He bolted upstairs, heart pounding. The bedroom door was open, wind whipping the curtains. The mirror where Lily had been sitting earlier was shattered, and on it, scrawled in black crayon, were the words, She can't hide anymore. Ethan stumbled back as thunder shook the walls. The triplets stood in the hallway behind him, silent, watching. Something told him that whatever was haunting them had just found its way home. Ethan tore through the house, calling Lily's name, but the only sound that answered was a wind moaning through the open windows. The triplets didn't move. They just stood there in the hallway, their eyes glinting under the flickering light. Where is she? Ethan shouted. His voice cracked with desperation. The oldest boy blinked slowly. She's with Daddy. Ethan grabbed his shoulders. Stop saying that. Your father is gone. The boy tilted his head, a calmness in his voice that made Ethan's skin crawl. No, he never left. A sudden crash came from downstairs. A mirror had fallen from the wall. Ethan raced toward the sound, his heartbeat pounding like a drum inside his skull. The mirror lay shattered on the marble floor, but through the shards, something shimmered, a reflection that didn't belong. Lily's face appeared in one of the broken pieces, pale and trembling, whispering something he couldn't hear. He reached out instinctively, and the shard cut his palm. Blood trickled down his wrist, but the reflection didn't fade. Instead, Lily's lips moved again. Don't let them touch the mirror. He stumbled back, staring. The air grew colder. Behind him, the children had followed. Their tiny bare feet made no sound. Ava bent down beside a large shard, pressing her fingers against its surface. The glass rippled like water. Ethan lunged forward. Stop, he yelled, grabbing her arm. She turned toward him with eyes that weren't his anymore, black, endless. Daddy's here. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. The mansion seemed to breathe, the walls contracting and expanding with every whisper. Ethan dragged the children away from the broken mirror, heart racing, fear clawing at his throat. He locked them in their room for the night, despite their soft cries echoing down the hallway. He returned to the bedroom, his hands still bleeding, his reflection distorted in the cracked vanity mirror. Lily was gone. Her phone, her bag, everything still there. Only the faint scent of a perfume lingered, mixing with the copper smell of blood and the storm outside. Ethan's mind spiraled. Could she have run away? Was this her breaking point? Or had something taken her? He sat on the bed, burying his face in his hands. A faint whisper came from behind him. Ethan! His head shot up. The voice was soft, trembling. Lily's. He turned slowly. There she was, standing by the window, her white nightgown fluttering from the cold wind. Lily! He exhaled a shaky breath, relief flooding him. Oh, thank God. I thought. But when she turned her head, his relief turned to ice. Her eyes were wrong, wide, hollow, pupils blown wide like ink spilling over. Her voice was distant, detached. They won't stop until you let him in. Who? Lily? Who is he? Ethan whispered, stepping closer. Her lips twitched, almost forming a smile. Our children's father. Then her body convulsed, and she fell to the floor, screaming. Ethan rushed to her, but the lights flickered violently. The mirror on the wall shook. From its surface, a shadow began to crawl outward, tall, thin, its movements jerky like it was stitched together from smoke. The air turned sharp with cold. Lily! Ethan shouted, pulling her back. The thing reached through the glass, its hand brushing the floor before snapping back like elastic. The triplets' voices echoed from upstairs, singing a lullaby, a slow, broken melody that made Ethan's skin crawl. He dragged Lily out of the room, whispering, "Stay with me, please, stay with me." But she was shaking, her eyes unfocused, her voice a rasp. "He wants a body," she whispered. "He wants to be alive again." Ethan's hands trembled. "Who?" Her gaze snapped up to him, wild and terrified. "Your kindness brought him here." A crash came from above, with splintering, laughter echoing. The triplets' door had opened on its own. Ethan took the stairs 2 at a time, his lungs burning, Lily's screams echoing from below. The house trembled with the sound of the storm outside, thunder shaking the glass chandeliers until they clinked like bones. The triplets' door was wide open. The lights inside flickered, throwing long shadows that moved like they had their own pulse. Ethan hesitated at the threshold, heart hammering, and whispered, "Kids!" No answer. Only a whisper of wind that didn't belong in an enclosed room. He stepped inside slowly. The air was colder here, heavy with something metallic, blood or rust, he couldn't tell. Toys were scattered across the floor, but every doll, every stuffed bear had its eyes torn out. On the far wall, written in a shaky, childish hand, were the words, "Daddy lives in the dark." Ethan swallowed hard. "Where are you?" A small giggle came from under the bed. He crouched, lifting the blanket, and found Ava curled up there, eyes open and unblinking. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "come out, okay? It's me." She stared at him for a moment, then whispered, "He's angry because you locked us in." Before he could answer, the room door slammed shut behind him. The windows darkened. His breath turned to fog in the freezing air. "Who's angry?" he asked, his voice trembling. All 3 children's voices answered together, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. "Daddy." If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. The lights went out completely. Ethan's flashlight flickered to life, casting thin beams through the darkness. The triplets stood now, shoulder to shoulder, faces pale and distant. Ava pointed toward the closet. "He waits there," she said simply. Ethan turned the flashlight toward the wooden door. It rattled slightly, as if something inside was breathing. He felt the hair on his neck rise. Every instinct screamed, "Don't open it." But Lily's voice from downstairs cut through his fear. "Ethan." And he realized she was still in danger. He reached for the closet handle. The moment he touched it, the air crackled with static, and whispers flooded the room. Male voices, overlapping, chanting in tones too low to understand. The wood under his hand vibrated, then split down the center like it was alive. A blast of cold air hit him in the chest. Ethan stumbled back as black smoke poured out from the crack, swirling around the children. Their eyes rolled back, mouths open in silent screams. He shouted, "Stop this! Whatever you are, Leave them alone. The smoke twisted upward, shaping itself into something half-human, half-shadow. It spoke in a voice that was both gentle and horrific, echoing deep inside his head. They were mine first. Ethan fell to his knees. You're their father, he whispered. I am what's left of him. The shape leaned closer. You took them. You made them forget me. But blood remembers. The children began to cry, reaching toward the shadow. Ethan pulled them back, holding all three close. They're not yours. You're dead. The shadow smiled, a dark ripple of movement. Death doesn't end what love begins. The room shook violently. Furniture flew. The walls split, revealing glimpses of the mansion's foundation beneath, the same symbols carved deep into stone. Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching a crucifix, her face streaked with tears. Ethan, get away from them. The shadow turned to her. The air thickened, humming with fury. She took them from me. It hissed. She killed them. Lily screamed. No, you don't get to twist that. I tried to save them. Ethan's mind reeled. What is he talking about? Her voice broke. Their father, he was going to sacrifice them. I stopped him. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, her knees buckled. They were gone. Ethan, dead. Their bodies were gone. Ethan's heart stopped. He looked at the children, still in his arms, and saw, for the first time, what he hadn't wanted to see. Their skin too pale, their eyes too glassy. No warmth, no breath fog in the cold air. Lily, he whispered, they are not alive. The shadow's laughter shook the room. Now you see. Lily clutched the crucifix tighter, screaming a prayer through her sobs. The shadow recoiled, hissing, but the children began to cry, deep, mournful cries that didn't sound human anymore. The air turned blindingly white, the sound deafening, and then silence. When Ethan opened his eyes, the room was empty. No shadow, no children, only Lily on the floor, sobbing, holding the smallest teddy bear in her shaking hands. They're gone, she whispered. He took them back. Outside, the storm finally broke. The mansion was silent again, but not peaceful. It was a kind of silence that followed screaming, the kind that echoed louder than sound itself. The rain outside had faded to a drizzle, soft and constant, like the sky was trying to wash away what had happened. Lily sat on the cold marble floor, her body trembling. Ethan knelt beside her, his own hand shaking as he brushed the hair from her face. It's over, he whispered. It's finally over. But Lily didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the empty doorway, her lips quivering. You don't understand. Ethan, he didn't take them back. He took them with him. Ethan's throat tightened. What does that mean? She turned to him with tears streaming down her face. It means he still wants something. He won't stop until he has it. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the shattered remains of the mirror in the hallway. Ethan stared at his reflection, broken and multiplied, a dozen versions of himself staring back, each one hollow-eyed and exhausted. What more could he possibly want? Lily's voice was barely a whisper. Me. Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply. Ethan couldn't breathe. The air felt heavier than ever, pressing against his ribs like hands. Lily, no, he can't have you. She smiled sadly, that same small, tired smile she used to give when she was trying not to cry. He already is a part of me, Ethan. The night it happened, when I tried to stop him, I made a promise. He grabbed her hands, his voice breaking. You don't owe him anything. You don't owe them anything. We can leave this house. We can start over. Lily looked up, her eyes shining with both love and something deeper, resignation. You still don't get it, do you? It's not the house. It's me. They found me before you ever brought them home. They've been waiting for me to come back. Ethan's grip tightened. Then we'll fight it. Together. The sound of laughter echoed faintly through the halls, the same high, haunting giggles that used to belong to the triplets. Ethan froze. Lily closed her eyes, tears spilling freely now. It's too late, she whispered. They are not gone. They are trapped, and I'm the doorway. Ethan's heart pounded. He stood up, scanning the shadows. Then I'll close that door. I don't care what it takes. He ran to the basement, guided by instinct more than reason. The carvings on the walls were glowing faintly now, pulsing like veins filled with light. Every step he took echoed like it belonged to someone else. At the center of the room, the circle of symbols burned faintly blue. Lily followed, barefoot, pale, her nightgown soaked with rainwater from the open window. Ethan, stop. You don't know what you're doing. He turned to her, desperation in his eyes. Tell me how to end this. Her voice cracked. You can't destroy what you don't believe in. You have to release it. He frowned. Release what? She stepped closer, placing a hand on his cheek. The anger, the guilt, the need to fix what can't be fixed. That's what keeps him here. That's what keeps them here. Ethan's jaw trembled. If I let go, will you stay? Lily smiled through her tears. If I stay, he wins. She kissed his forehead, her breath warm against his skin. Tell them you forgive them. Tell me you forgive me. Ethan's voice broke. Lily, don't, please. The floor beneath them began to rumble. The symbols blazed brighter, the air thick with whispers. The triplets' laughter rose again, mingled with sobs and fragments of broken lullabies. Lily stepped into the circle, her hair lifting like it was caught in wind. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice shaking. But this is the only way. Ethan reached for her, screaming her name, but the light exploded outward, a brilliant, blinding white that swallowed everything. When it faded, he was alone. The walls were bare. The carvings were gone. The room was just a basement again, empty, silent, ordinary. Ethan fell to his knees, hands trembling, staring at the spot where Lily had stood. The faintest scent of a perfume still lingered in the air. He whispered into the silence, I forgive you. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the house didn't whisper back. Morning came quietly, as if the world itself had been holding its breath. The first sunlight in days slipped through the mansion's broken windows, painting the walls in pale gold. Dust hung in the air like tiny ghosts, spinning lazily in the light. Ethan hadn't moved from the basement floor. His hands were still pressed to the cold cement where Lily had vanished. His body felt weightless, as if something essential had been taken from him. Not just his wife, but the part of himself that believed love could fix everything. The silence was unbearable. Every corner of the house seemed to hum with memories, laughter, footsteps, whispered promises. The kind of sound that didn't need to be real to hurt. He climbed the stairs slowly, barefoot, the wood creaking under his weight. The mansion was no longer alive with energy or fear. It was just hollow now, hollow and waiting. When he reached their bedroom, he found Lily's crucifix lying on the floor, glinting faintly. He picked it up and pressed it to his chest. You said I had to let go, he murmured, but I don't know how. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty mirror. For the first time since it shattered, it didn't reflect shadows, only him. Older, smaller, human. Then, softly, like wind through curtains, came a whisper. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Ethan froze. Lily. No answer, only the sound of a door opening somewhere down the hall. If you believe love still wins, comment amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. Ethan followed the sound into the nursery. The morning light flooded the room, warm and blinding. The walls were bare now, no drawings, no toys. Only 3 small beds, neatly made, and on each pillow a single folded piece of paper. His heart raced as he opened the first one. Thank you for letting us be loved. The second read, Tell Mommy it doesn't hurt anymore. The third, written in smaller, shakier letters, said, He's gone now. You can rest. Ethan sank to his knees, clutching the papers to his chest. Tears spilled down his face, the first real tears since this began. It wasn't horror that filled him this time. It was peace. A fragile, trembling kind of peace, but peace nonetheless. He walked outside, barefoot on the damp grass, as the sun finally broke through the clouds. The air smelled of rain and earth and new beginnings. For the first time, He noticed how beautiful the world still was, how even grief had edges of grace if you looked closely enough. The mansion stood behind him, quiet and still. He turned back once, half expecting to see the triplets by the window or Lily's shadow in the doorway. But there was nothing. Just light. He smiled faintly, whispering, "You were right, Lily. Love wins." The breeze picked up then, carrying the faintest echo of children's laughter. Not haunting this time, but free. Ethan closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him, the morning sun warming his face. He didn't know where life would take him next, but for the first time in a long time, he wasn't afraid. He'd lost everything. Yes, but in that loss, he'd found something most people spend a lifetime searching for, the courage to let go. Weeks passed. The mansion, once full of echoes and fear, now stood silent under the spring sun. Workers came and went, repairing what storms and spirits had broken. Ethan stayed, helping them repaint the walls, replace windows, tear out the dark places where the past had clung. Every nail driven in, every coat of paint laid, felt like a small act of redemption. Yet sometimes, when the day grew still, he'd catch a faint whisper of laughter or the rustle of small footsteps, and instead of fear, a quiet smile would cross his face. He didn't chase those sounds away anymore. They were memories, not hauntings. Pieces of a love that had burned so fiercely, it had to leave marks. One evening, as the sun began to set, Ethan stood by the garden Lily used to love. The rose bushes she planted were blooming again, new life rising from the soil she once tended. He knelt, fingers brushing over the petals. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "You said forgiveness would free them. Maybe it freed me too." A soft breeze lifted his hair, warm and gentle, almost like a touch. And for a moment, he could swear he heard her voice, light and distant. "You did good, Ethan." He smiled through the tears. "I miss you." The air shimmered with the sound of the wind chimes she'd hung years ago, a soft, melodic tune, like laughter wrapped in sunlight. That night, he walked through the empty halls one last time. The house no longer scared him. It breathed differently now, calm and open, like a wound that had finally begun to heal. He paused by the children's room and placed 3 white roses on their beds. Then he locked the front door and walked out into the fading light. At the edge of the long driveway, he turned once more to look back. The windows caught the sunset and glowed golden, warm, alive, almost like the house itself was smiling. Ethan whispered, "Goodbye," and the word didn't hurt the way he thought it would. He started his car, the engines unsteady and low, and drove away from the mansion, not to escape it, but to carry its lesson forward. Because some homes, he had learned, weren't made of bricks and glass. They were made of people, of love, and the memories left behind. And though loss would always sting, forgiveness had built him a bridge across it. One made of compassion, not guilt. If the story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, "I felt you." Ethan's new home was small, a cabin overlooking a quiet lake. Sometimes he'd wake to the sound of soft laughter carried by the morning wind, and he'd smile, knowing it wasn't a haunting but a reminder. The world outside the window glowed with color, sunrise spilling gold across still water. And in that moment, he understood what Lily had meant. Love doesn't vanish when people do. It transforms, finding new places to live. Ethan closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Somewhere, far beyond the light, a woman's voice and 3 small echoes answered back. And the story ended, not with fear, but with peace.